You're listening to the Wedding Biz Network, the voice of the creative entrepreneur. Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, in which I conduct in-depth and revealing interviews of icons and those who I feel are the next generation icons of the weddings and event industry. And all of this is to provide you with education and inspiration. I know that one of the tough things that we're all dealing with, obviously, during this pandemic is stress. Quite a bit of it. We're all dealing with it in different ways. And so I put together a list of top 10 tips for dealing with stress, taken from the interviews I've done with the icons of the business. You can get a copy of these top tips for dealing with stress at theweddingbiz.com/top tips. Again, that's theweddingbiz.com/top tips. For those of you who missed last week's episode, it was Zamir Kassam of Zamir Kassam Fine Jewelry. His custom designed jewelry has been seen on the red carpet for 3 major films, and he's got just an absolutely great story. It was a real different kind of interview for me on the show. And today, I'm so proud and excited to announce that it is with Abi Matesun, founder and CEO of Malekfoto Films and Malekfoto Weddings. Abi is a 2-time Emmy-Winning Cinematographer. He is also a filmmaker, photographer, public speaker, and 2-time Telly Award winner. Born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, Abi studied management and information systems at the University of Texas. And through his Malekfoto Films and Malekfoto Weddings companies, he's produced premium digital content for commercial, cultural, and creative purposes. And his wedding visuals have attracted over 60 million viewers all over the world. In 2018, he was awarded the 2 Emmy Awards for his documentary, Inner Conflict. That year, he also won 2 Telly Awards for producing Fire and Ice, a love story filmed in Iceland. His work has been featured in The Guardian, BBC, New Telegraph, Good Morning Texas, Genevieve Magazine, and others. I had such a great talk with Abi. He is extremely gifted, thoughtful, humble, and was an absolute pleasure to have on the show. So enjoy my conversation with Abi Matesun. Abi, welcome to the Wedding Biz. It's so good to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's my pleasure. You know, I'd like to start with this wonderful quote. I don't know if it was on your website or in an interview about you, but I love it, Abi, and I'd love to hear more. What I read that you said is, everything you see in life that has impacted the world in any form or way started as a dream. I mean, that's such a beautiful sentiment. What moved you to come up with that?
That's a really, really true statement, especially because when think about it for a second. The microphones that we're speaking into, the computers, everything, it started in the mind as somebody's dream, right? And over a period of time, that dream was developed into, okay, what things do I need to, what ingredients do I need to make this dream a reality? If you look at all the biggest businesses in the world right now, the Apples and the Googles and, the Amazons, it started as a dream in somebody's mind. So everything in the world really starts as a dream.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I keep thinking about, even for me, something like, for example, this podcast. It started at first as just a wild thought in my mind. And then I thought about it more and more and more, and it definitely did become a dream. I mean, it took me a long time to act on it. But it seems that your original dream, from what I understand, because you were studying quantity surveying in Lagos, Nigeria, right?
Yes, I was studying quantity surveying. So the educational system in Nigeria is pretty interesting. So to get into college, right, you necessarily do not get offered what you want. So I'll give you an example. If you want to be a medical doctor, for instance, there's a certain quota for that program. So if you do not meet that quota, or the numbers are, they're over, then they offer you something else. So you have the option of accepting whatever it is that you're offered, or wait till the next year. So wow. That's how I got into quantity surveying.
What is quantity surveying anyway? I know what surveying is, but quantity, what does that mean?
Quantity surveying is actually interesting because when you have a building, right? The cost of the merchandising of that building. So the cost of the flooring, the cost of the walls, the cost of this and that and that. A quantity surveyor puts all that together. So it's pretty much the costing of buildings and what goes into putting a building together.
Oh, I see. All right. So, but then, from what I understand, you ended up obviously not finishing it, and you left and moved to the United States. How did that come to be?
So at that point, I was dating my high school sweetheart, with who is now currently my wife.
Okay.
When we finished high school, she left for the States, a college in upstate New York called Union. And when, she would come and visit every year. So we had this long distance relationship going on for a number of years. And then she was like, "Oh, are you coming for my graduation?" In my mind, I did not realize that 4 years had gone by so fast, because I was in this program for quantity surveying that was supposed to be an 18-month program.
Uh-huh.
And it's been almost 4 years and we hadn't even finished yet.
Okay.
And I was thinking to myself, what is going on in this place? Because there had been a lot of strikes. The schools would strike and, would be home for 6 months, would be home for 8 months. Every semester we had a strike afterwards. The lecturers complaining that they were not getting paid enough. So at that point, I decided, I was like, if I wanted this relationship to work, I needed to, mentally shift. And that's what I did. So I decided then that I was going to, apply to schools here and see what happened. So that's what I did.
Wow. What a huge move. So how old were you when you moved to the United States then? You were about 22, something like that?
Yes, in my early 20s. I had to start from scratch, get into college, and she had said that I'm not going to marry anyone that, that doesn't have a college degree. I was like, okay.
But what I'm just imagining, it must have been such a change of culture for you to leave Nigeria and come to the United States. What was your impression of the United States at first?
That's a really good question. So I had been to the UK a few times. My mom is actually British, and what I was expecting was different, because the only idea that I had about the States then was what I saw in movies and music videos. So
Okay.
it was I was in shock.
Yeah, I'm afraid to ask which music videos, but keep going. You were in shock. Okay.
Yes, I was in shock. My flight landed in New York, and then we took a bus to Massachusetts. And it was just too quiet, because remember, I lived in Lagos and went to London. So those were the two cities that I was used to. So the quiet, suburban neighborhood in Massachusetts was just, I was like, I don't understand how people do this. So I was actually ready to leave. Then went for the graduation upstate New York. Then I went to Maryland and lived in Maryland for a while, but then it was too cold.
Right. I agree. I'm in Maryland. I completely agree.
Then I came to Texas, and when I came to Texas, it just felt like home. And I was like, you know what, this can be base, and I can travel. If I need to travel, then I can do that. Being based in Texas. So that's the journey and how I ended up in Texas.
And what did you end up studying? Because you mentioned, she wanted you to get a degree.
Yes, I studied management information system, MIS, which I've never used, because while I was in college, I started a photography company, and it did well. I was a fashion photographer for a while, and that did really well for me. Helped pay for a lot of things, school and all that.
But Abby, if you don't mind me interrupting, what was it why video and film? What moved you to or did you say photography? That's what you started.
Yes, so I started with photography. It was just I stumbled into it. It was something I stumbled into, and a friend of mine gifted me a camera as a birthday gift, and, played around with that for a while, and realized that I was really, really good at the composition and the understanding of light and this and this and that. And I remember going into a community college, to the photography department, um, to have a meeting with one of the lecturers about, just to see the work and assess the work. And he's like, a lot of us study these things, but it comes natural to you. So if I were you with this kind of gift, I would really, really seriously pursue this. And that resonated with me.
That is so interesting that if it were not for the gift, I wonder how things would have gone for you. I wonder if you would have discovered it anyway. It's interesting how, to me, I love learning about, having serendipitous, synchronistic moments happen that can change an entire life.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that now, you're doing cinematography. What happened with the transition from photography to cinematography?
Oh, great. That's a really good question. So while I was doing photography, I was commissioned to do this project on HIV, poverty, and children, which took me to South Africa, Kenya, some places in Nigeria that I'd never been before, in the northern part of Nigeria. And while I was there, I constantly got frustrated because, yes, I got great images, but I realized that something happened before that image and after that image. But I wasn't able to, translate that. Yeah, you could shoot a series of pictures, but it doesn't give you the story behind the story, if that makes any sense. It was just frustrating for me. And I was like, you know what, there has to be a better way to tell stories. Because I was realizing that, okay, fashion is great, but, in your heart of hearts, you're really a storyteller. So how do you communicate that story? How do you tell that story more effectively? Mm-hmm. And that's when I started looking into video.
Interesting. And so what were the first kind of jobs that you got when you had switched over to the video?
Oh, I did, which I still do now, a lot of commercial stuff. People trying to tell the brand story, telling the story about the brand and, convey the messages of the brand and the messaging of the brand, because all that is done visually. Again, pictures are great, but when it's time to, to communicate more effectively, video is necessary.
It's interesting. I looked at, obviously I looked through your website and I looked at a lot of your work, and I was so moved. I mean, first of all, the photography that you do have on there is stunning. And then the actual, I looked at a lot of different types of work that you do, and I understand what you say when you're telling a story, because it is so emotionally evocative, your work. So when did weddings come into the picture? Was that also near the beginning? I mean, or did you just do commercials and helping express the message of brands for a while? How did that go?
Weddings just actually came into the picture December 2016.
Oh, recently. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back 3 years before then. This friend of mine, she was like, "You're going to shoot my wedding." I'm like, "You don't even have a boyfriend." She's like, "When the boyfriend comes and when he proposes, you're going to shoot my wedding."
Wow.
And as soon as she got proposed to, she's like, she called, "What dates are you available? I'm thinking about this date, this date, this date, because you're shooting my wedding." I was like, wait. She's like, "You cannot say no to me. I told you this way beforehand," and, yada, yada, yada. So I agreed to do the wedding. And the wedding, in fact, at her wedding was when Malekfoto Wedding was birthed. It turned, I mean, like everything that we do, gave it our best, and it just went crazy viral. I think that wedding got about 15 million views, I think.
Oh my God, Abby! Why do you think that is?
Because of the way that it was shot and the way that it was put together. It just kind of made you feel as if you were there. The emotions and all that. Because I tell people all the time that when we shoot weddings, it's as if we're going on a set, right? The bride and the groom are the main characters, the wedding party, a supporting cast, and the guests are extras. So when you go into a wedding with that kind of mindset, what you produce is always going to be different. So that was our aim going in, and that's always the aim when we go for accept any wedding bookings. It's just wanting to tell the unique love story as best as we can.
But are you able to put, I know this is probably a difficult question, but are you able to put in words more about what you mean in terms of, I mean, you have a cinematic style to the way you shoot, well, everything, and including weddings, and it is so much more like a film, like you mentioned, the characters and the supporting cast. I mean, when I see it, I get it. Are you able to put into words more about what that means compared to a typical wedding video?
So you have to realize that each unique couple, their love is unique to them. All love is not the same. They love each other in a unique way. And, listening to the love story, seeing the way that they interact, you have to pay attention to all those things. You have to anticipate things that are going to happen based on the information they've given you before. So I think that kind of puts us in a different light and a different category because of the way that we pay attention to not just the details of the day of, but the details of the previous conversations that we had before.
So what then is your process like in terms of when you first meet them? How does the conversation go to set yourself up for this style?
Okay, very good. So I ask the strangest questions, like, tell me about when you fell in love. Tell me about how you knew this was the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. Tell me about your first kiss. And when you with those questions, you realize that every time that you ask one of those, they light up, right? The tone of voice changes because you're talking to them on the phone. They giggle and smile, and a lot of times that story is different from not just one couple to the next. It is different from even between the couples as well. So what the bride tells you is going to be different from what the groom tells you, or vice versa. Or if you're shooting same-sex weddings, it's different as well. What they say as individuals is different.
Interesting. Do you want to hear behind-the-scenes stories of some of the most influential music industry pros around? Check out my other podcast, The Music Makers. You can find the show on your cell phone's podcast app or at themusicmakers.com. Again, that's The Music Makers. Do you have a story, perhaps, of maybe one of your favorite wedding events that you could tell a little bit more about how it went?
Oh my goodness, there are a lot of them. Everyone has this, this unique thing. I'll tell you about this one. Okay, so this is Denique and Henry. So when we had our first conversation, she had said, my dad passed away, and he was, my first love, and we're really close, and this and this and that. So we decided that she got married at the Reagan building in DC, and there's this gorgeous steps walking towards the ceremony, and we decided that, okay, you know what, to represent the presence of your dad, why don't you walk in this cloud? I'm sure you saw that on our page where this bride was walking.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. That was the representation of her dad. Her dad,
oh my gosh.
Your dad is supposed to walk you down the aisle.
Oh, wow.
So that's a representation of her dad with her walking down those stairs, and, I tell our couples all the time that we just, if you're looking for just a videographer that just shows up on the day of, asking, okay, so, what's the room number? That's not us. We want to be a part of every single part of the process. What kind of lighting are you going to be using? What is the decor going to look like? What is the color scheme going to look like? So we can focus on the main things and know what we need to do to compensate for the things that are not going to be there.
Wow. This is the first time I have ever heard that in terms of doing film and for a wedding and ahead of time asking what kind of lighting, what is the decor. So is there any, again, because like you say, I know you do commercials, you do documentaries. We're going to get into that in a minute. So is there some storyboarding, if I'm saying that correctly, done even with a wedding?
Oh, yes. This is what we do with the team. The bride is not privy to this. But I think as a filmmaker or as a wedding filmmaker, one of my core jobs is to make life easiest for the wedding planner as much as I can, right? So we have to do some kind of planning before so that the wedding planner can focus on other things, not babysitting us.
Yeah.
So we do storyboarding. So so for us, we almost want to be like the special forces team, right? Where your footprint is really small, but you're impactful. So you're catching all the moments between the moments, right? But at the same time, not in people's faces, not overwhelming, because the day itself is overwhelming as it is. So why add pressure to either the planner or the bride or the parties or whatever. So we just want to be in, out. Sometimes we're using long lenses, so that we could capture from a distance without being in people's faces, or just like that.
Wow. This is so fascinating to me. And I know that also just a couple years ago, you were awarded two Emmys for your documentary Inner Conflict, which is about a boxer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me something about that now? And I saw the trailer for it. We're going to have links in the show notes. I really recommend people check all this out. Okay. I mean, wow. There's a lot of emotion in that. I mean, talk about a story. How did that come to be? So,
interestingly, that story, we've been planning it for 6 years. One of my team members, Sam, was like, I have this friend that is a professional boxer. We should, kind of do like an interview with him. So we tried to set that up, and, it fell through a couple of times. Then he came back. He's like, his mom is terminally ill. We need to do this ASAP. So we tried setting up again. He had to fly out of the country and, this and that. So we finally connected and, started putting the storyboard together for the story. And that's how we came up with the title Inner Conflict. So his mom was terminally ill. He had one of the biggest prize fights of his life and his career. And his girlfriend was pregnant.
Oh my gosh, all this going on.
And along the way, his mom passed away.
Yeah.
He had a son and won the fight. So everything in that timeline is the reason why we titled it Inner Conflict.
Incredible. What a story. Now, that year you also won 2 Telly Awards for producing Fire and Ice, which is a love story filmed in Iceland. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yeah. So this, we met this amazing couple, Alicia and Dan. So part of the questions that I ask my couples are, do you like traveling? And where's your next trip? Have you considered doing a love story, like a destination love story? So we had that conversation, and initially they're like, they want to go to Greece. And that was the initial plan. And they're like, what do you think about Iceland in the middle of winter? Okay, so remember that I'm from Africa. We're tropical people. We don't like snow,
Yeah, neither do I. Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm like, that would be from a creative standpoint, that would be mind blowing. They're like, okay, Iceland it is. So excited about that. And my wife was like, what are you doing? You know, you have to get gear, right? You have to, clothes and everything. I went to school in upstate New York. This stuff that you have is not, I mean, I thank God for that woman. Because
Yeah.
I would have frozen my butt off if,
Yeah.
if she didn't step in. So we ordered some boots and, just gear that I needed to be able to survive in Iceland. And it turned out awesome. It was really, really beautiful.
I also notice, Abby, when I watch the trailers for some of your films, the music in the background, the music that you have is really, it grabs me so much. There's so much emotion coming through the music. I imagine that's something you must give a lot of thought to.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, for any kind of film, I mean, music is huge. In fact, a lot of times music is 70% and the film is 30. Because I want you to imagine, Titanic without that music,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
It would the movie wouldn't be the same. So the music is so important. We spend hours and hours combing through, looking for music to go with the scenes. And pretty much the way that, it's done in the movies, um, it's called a score when you're doing a film, but the scores and the music just has to go with the scene. Otherwise, it's a music video
Yes.
because that's another process on its own. We have a team that actually goes through music, to find. And if you notice, every single music is different with every scene, with every film. So it's a whole lot of work um, in by itself. And a lot of people don't realize that. And that's part of the kind of education that we give our clients, that we charge this much because of the kind of work that goes on, post-production work. It's a lot.
Yeah, sure. Haven't you also worked with some artists, musical artists like I believe Erica Badu, Snoop Dogg, Music Soul Child? What were those projects?
Oh, that was when I still did photography.
Ah, photography. Okay.
Yes. So did some photography with those guys.
Yeah, I would love to see that sometime. And also I'm thinking that in addition to the art of this, there is still the business aspect, right, of any creative business. So, Abby, how do you? Obviously, you have to have a really good business sense in order to have a successful creative business. How do you view that the balance between business and art and the business of the art?
Hmm. That's a really, really good question because those two parts conflict even inside. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes where that you're going to be losing money on this project, but because of the love to create, um, you you still go for it anyways. I try not to do that. I do have some passion projects that I'm on right now that we know that it's not going to bring any money in, but we still do them anyways. But that's always on the side, either doing stuff for charity or some kind of charitable body that is making an impact. But then the flip side of it is you have to understand, because there's a way to calculate your time, and I tell the handful of guys that I'm mentoring about that. When you say that this is how much that you charge, what is it based on, right? Think about how much time that you spend on it, because that's
Yeah.
that's what we've done. We've
Yeah.
broken down the process into time. How much time do you spend shooting? How much time do you spend editing? How much time do you spend looking for music? And then kind of figure out how much you want to make an hour. So when you do it that way, you're able to see right away, is this a profitable venture or am I losing money doing this?
Yeah, is that something that you basically just learned on your own? I mean, how to apply these business techniques to what you do?
Yes, like photography and video, the things that I had to learn on my own.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, for a lot of people in creative arts. So that says a lot in terms of how you approach it. What about now? I understand too that you do well at the time of this recording in July. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We can't really travel, but I understand that you normally do speaking engagements. What are your speaking engagements about? What are the topics?
So we talk about the power of video most of the time, right? Because a lot of people don't understand that in this time and in this age, that the currency of a brand is in your visuals. If you don't have good visuals, then you can't translate your brand story. You can't translate what your brand stands for.
Yeah.
And a lot of consumers right now are so educated. Those are things that they want to know. What kind of social responsibilities are you connected to, or is your brand connected to before we spend money with you? They want to know those things, and that's what video does. The power of video, helps you to communicate that more effectively.
Also, I was mentioning that at right now we are going through the pandemic. How are you dealing with this, Abby? I mean, imagine it seems to me you must have been traveling quite a bit in your business. You've got to be, as we say, on set, to film. How is the pandemic affecting you and your business? How are you doing personally, and what are you doing business wise?
That's a great question, because I was on a set and I had to buy a brand new ticket to get out of town to be able to come in before the borders closed in.
Where were you? Where are you talking about?
I was in Nigeria.
Oh my gosh.
I was shooting. I was the DOP and creative director on a set for this series called The Men's Club, and it was we had done about 70% of the work, and somebody was ill on set, which now seemed to be COVID, and we just had to shut down, because we didn't want to take the risk of more people getting ill.
Yeah.
So I had to turn around, buy a ticket, um, and fly back to Dallas. So yes, we do travel quite a bit for work, and what we've done so far, it's because the thing about COVID is we, and a lot of us, not just talk about me, talk about everyone in general, we never have time to reset. We never have time to process. We just go, 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 go. But I've had time to do that. I've read a lot of scripts and kind of highlighted, projects that we want to tackle next. Then mentorship programs, talking to people that either want to get into this kind of industry, or or doing what we're doing on a smaller scale, how to scale. Just doing that, being socially responsible, really.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned mentorship. If you were giving, let's say, a master class to some already somewhat experienced filmmakers, videographers, who want to get to your level, what would you focus on? What are just some of the most important tips and advice you would give someone like that?
Consistency. Just do what you're doing at the highest level that you can, and be consistent. At some point in time, you would break out. That's what I'll say to someone that is on the way, or that has some kind of experience. Just be consistent. Over deliver. When you promise your client something, over deliver, because people like those kinds of pleasant surprises. And maintain relationships. Don't destroy a relationship based on money, because money would always come, right? When you do your best and you think outside the box, and do your best, it attracts money. So never make money the basis, or the basis of your relationship, or the deal breaker for you. At the end of the day, it's only money. The relationships that money cannot buy. So focus on the relationship and build them versus focusing on money.
Yeah, relationships networking is just so critical, isn't it? You know, I find like now during the pandemic, I'll take time every week to just reach out to people I've known, just simply to maintain, to keep that connection, you know, see how they're doing, but to stay connected. You know, I think that's the challenge right now. So one last question. What for you does success mean? How do you view success? What is that for you?
It's interesting that you asked that question because to the guys that I mentor as well, I tell them this. Success is a journey and not a destination. So when you focus on yourself and stop comparing yourself with other people, you would enjoy success every day. Because really, success is doing better than you did yesterday. Right? If I can do better than what I did yesterday, then it was a successful day. With my films, if we can do this better than we did, the last one, then it's a success.
Geez, I love the way you're framing that because it makes it so much more reachable to just look at it that way, step by step, right? Just to simply have a good day and, like you say, take it to another level than what you just previously did. And also, I remember, Abby, when I was younger, especially, or even 10 years ago, it was hard not to compare myself to other people. You know, the grass always seemed greener on the other side, right? But then you dig in and it's not always what we think with other people.
And that's one of the ills of social media, right? Because you see what they show you. And you keep comparing that, oh, this person's life is better than mine, and this and this and this and that. But that person could be dealing with cancer. That person could be dealing with divorce. That person could be dealing with a death in the family. They're dealing with things that that they don't show you. But if you focus on yourself and focus on improving yourself, then you would always enjoy success and you'll be happier for it. That's my mantra, and that's what I teach and that's what I preach. Just focus on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to leave it at that because it can't get any better than that. Thank you so much, Abby, for coming on. I mean, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I love your work. We're going to have everything in the show notes so people can see it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Abi Matesun. Be sure to check out his website at malekfotoweddings.com and also malekfotofilms.com. His social media handle is Malekfoto Weddings. And of course, you can get all of this information as usual in the show notes at our website of theweddingbiz.com. And don't forget to check out our follow-on segment that comes out each week on Wednesdays called The Next Level, in which I have a guest co-host, and together we tease out some of the highlights of the interview of the week in order to deliver some specific tactics and tips to help you raise your own business to the next level. And this week's guest co-host is really exciting. It's going to be Zainab Al-Sali, founder and managing director of Carousel Events, a bespoke event design and wedding planning company based in Dubai. And I'd like to ask you to share this episode with friends and colleagues, and also give a great review wherever you find your podcasts for The Wedding Biz. It helps new people find us, and I would feel very grateful for that. And we want to thank our sponsor, Kushner Entertainment, very high-touch music, entertainment design. Check it out at kushnerentertainment.com, and we'll catch you next week on The Wedding Biz.